Hey there, it's Miriam with Mobile Geeks. We're here at Mobile Congress 2016 at the LG G5 launch, and we want to show you the G5 versus last year's G4. So I got them both right here in front of me, and the first thing you will immediately notice is the difference in size. And that's because last year's G4, which is here on the right, is a 5.5-inch display versus a 5.3-inch display on this year's G5. And of course, you know, slightly different design, a little more square last year, a bit more generic round this year. If you pop them over the back here, you'll see that it's quite a bit different since the G5 is made of unibody machined aluminum. And of course the G4 is plastic with a bunch of different backs, and this is the leather back, which does look pretty good, but in plastic it really does look much cheaper and feel much cheaper than the G5 now does. So that's a big improvement in terms of fit and finish and materials. That's the first thing you notice, beyond obviously the size, which is obviously a big deal. So this is in the front. Of course, under the hood there's a lot of differences, but let's focus first on what's different outside. The third thing that's a big deal is the cameras. As you notice, they're very different looking. You'll notice that the module here is the same as the module on the right-hand side on the G5, and that's because there actually are both 16 megapixel f/1.9 cameras with optical image stabilization. Those are the main cameras on these two phones. What the G5 adds to the equation is a secondary camera, which is a wide-angle 8 megapixel f/2.2, also with OIS. And you can seamlessly transition between these two when you zoom, or manually select one or the other. The sensors are also very similar. The laser autofocus is here on both of them. And then the color sensor and flash are reversed on the G5, but they're there as well. And of course, it's a different orientation. The other huge difference you'll notice in the back is that the volume rocker on the G5 is no longer in the back like on the G4. The power lock key is still on the back, but the rocker is now on the side here instead of on the back. And there's a fingerprint reader in the power lock key, just like on the V10. The G4 did not have a fingerprint reader. Another difference that I can't really show you without setting off the alarm is that the G4 has micro USB, as you can see here, but this has USB Type-C. So that's a big difference. Finally, one of the really cool features of the LG G5 is if you push this little button, you can pop this end cap off, which is the only plastic part of the phone, and it's modular. This lets you access the battery inside, but you have different end caps that do different things. One of them is a camera grip, one of them is a Bang & Olufsen audio, high quality audio system, and this contains the speaker, the USB Type-C jack, and basically covers the battery. On the G4, you can pull the battery cover off like this and get to the battery inside. So that's one of the big differences. Also, the micro SD card slot on the G4 is down here with the SIM card, whereas on the G5 you have a SIM tray here that also holds a micro SD card. So those are some of the differences. I told you that I was going to mention some of the inside differences. Of course, a year has gone by. So on the left here, the G5 has a Snapdragon 820, whereas the G4 on the right has a Snapdragon 808. 6 core versus 8 cores. This is using Snapdragon 820 is the new crate type design from Qualcomm. So it's going to be significantly faster and more battery efficient. The 808 and 810 used a kind of generic ARM design in terms of marquee architecture and weren't quite as efficient and as good as we expected them to be when they launched. So we should see a huge improvement in terms of battery life and performance with the G5 versus the G4. Not that the G4 was a slouch in the first place. 3 gigs of RAM on the G4 versus 4 gigs of RAM on the G5, also a major difference. It's going to make multitasking and running multiple apps a lot better. Both have 32 gigs of storage and micro SD, as I mentioned. The front-facing cameras, I believe, are more or less identical. We're looking at 8 megapixel. Don't have the specs on that, to be honest.
Yeah, they're both.
And that's basically it. You can see there's still an infrared transmitter, which is a good thing to have if you want to remote control your TV. And of course, the headphone jack is moved from the bottom on the G4 to the top on the G5. And let me really quickly show you the camera interface so you can see how similar these two cameras are. You're probably not noticing here, but the icons are up here, and they're very similar. But the difference here is this wide versus narrow angle, and you can see the difference. Look at how much more I can capture. I can barely see the logo down here, and with the wide angle I see the whole thing. Of course I can go back to this camera, and now it's pretty much the same point of view, as you can see, almost. And so when you zoom in with the volume rocker, I believe it's the volume rocker. I guess not. It's set up to be. Let's see.
I think you can customize that stuff later.
Yeah, it's set up right now to be. Let's see if I zoom like this. So you can zoom, and then if you zoom back enough, it switches to the other camera. You can normally set it to be the rocker if you want, but as you can see, it switches cameras right about here. So there we are, and now we are switching cameras, and we're going to zoom out. And we're switching cameras, and we're zooming in. So that's the big difference here. Of course, here you can still zoom on the G4. I keep doing selfie mode, but you know, there's just a simple zoom here, nothing else, one camera only. So that's the big difference. But other than that, the camera interface is the same. The camera quality should be the same module for the non-wide angle one. And so, you know, really, as we mentioned our hands-on, this is a fantastic phone, and the G4 was a fantastic phone. This is, you know, it's going to be a tough call if you're trying to save money and have to choose between the two. But personally, my vote is for the G5 because I'm a camera person. Having that extra wide-angle lens is going to make a big difference. In addition, the modular design, which I can't show you without triggering the alarm right now, is going to be a major boon, especially with that camera grip and other accessories. It's an open system. LG is going to let people develop things from other brands, and there's going to be an API for it too. The G4 and the G5 here at Mobile Congress 2016. Stay tuned for more videos on mobilegeeks.com. Cheers.